How's it going, everybody? We're at some number of the 80s in terms of the episodes of Critical, the history of wrestling video games. I'm Mongo, joined as always by Liger Busa. And this week, we're going to continue our hot streak of interviewing people that have been involved with the Aki modding community for a long time because we're talking with SK Stylez. And how are you this week?
I'm good. How are you all keeping?
Not too bad. How come everyone in the modding community is British?
That's a very good question, actually.
Well, Freem's from like Chicago.
Yeah.
Or somewhere in Illinois.
Okay. That's right, yeah.
He might not be from Illinois. I'm sorry, Freem, if I got your location wrong.
I know Randy's in Texas, I believe.
Oh, yeah, right.
So
it's pretty diverse.
It is, yeah. It's a little bit of everybody from everywhere, I've noticed. So you've had your hands in like a lot of different Aki projects over the years. Like I actually had to ask Ray, like I can't think of anything specifically that like you put out that was like you and how to put this, like where it was like this is SK Stylez mod specifically, but then he was like that was the guy that did the VPW2 like translation patch, and I was like, that's right. And I remember your name from like the Impact Zone. I don't know if you were involved with TNA versus ROH back in the day, but I remember you from that board. How many of these projects that we've been talking about lately and we've all been playing have you had input on?
So I think the most recent one's probably GM Spectre's ECW mixtape. So all I did for that was basically just the WrestleMania 2000 1.1 patch. So it was essentially a bug fix and just added a few features here and there. And then I think GM Spectre wanted to use that as a base. So that's pretty much my contribution to some of his mods there.
So with the translation patch, if it's the one I'm thinking of, that's the one that expands the character limit for the roster like names in edit mode, right? Or am I thinking of a different patch?
That's probably a different patch. So my translation patch was like, to believe it or not, it's like over 10 years old now. So I started that in 2014 and then probably released the last update probably February 2015. And then since then, I haven't done anything in terms of that translation patch. I've been meaning to try and finish it, but then life basically hits you in the face. And yeah, I've been just trying to figure out a way to kind of combine the translation into a bigger project. So like last year, I kind of teased something called Broken Limits, where it's essentially where I try to break as many limits as I can within the game, like expand the roster, expand the belts, expand arenas. So quite ambitious. But yeah, that project at the moment, it's kind of going slow. But being sidetracked with other things and stuff, so yeah.
You're the one we have to blame for the Fallen Angel tights, right?
Not specifically me. I would say whoever wrote the original guide on game facts, and they're the person to blame. So I just incorporated everything that I knew at the time and just translated it.
Yeah, I think I said last week, I remember that being a thing since like the game came out. Everyone said it was Christopher Daniels, and I just thought that doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
And then once you see Tame and Honda, it's like, yeah, that's definitely not right. But for whatever reason, it stuck. And I think it's kind of funny. It's a funny little Easter egg that's been around since, the beginning, really.
Yeah, I think in No Mercy as well, one of the faces is listed as Christopher Daniels as well. But yeah, definitely not.
No.
Were you the one that posted the screenshot of China's model in Virtual Pro Wrestling 2?
Yes, that was me. So that
how hard of a process was that to carry over?
So that was probably the early days of ROM hacking, I would say. So this was again 2015, 2016. So it's just like, in terms of tools, it was quite limited in what was available. But there was this tool that allowed you to import files into Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, which was the tool that helped me do the translation. So it was a matter of just trying to find the model in WrestleMania 2000 and just trying to put that over. In terms of the textures, it was just basically done with like the Rice plugin It's just simple texture replacement there, so nothing in terms of replacing the textures within the ROM or anything. So, like I said, it was the early days of ROM hacking then.
When you talk about
So,
breaking it, like how far have you actually broke it?
Well, I've managed to expand on the belts. So I managed to add like the belts from No Mercy, WrestleMania 2000, Revenge as well. So I managed to get that functional. In terms of attires, in theory, I can expand on that as well. I was playing around with it a few weeks ago, just trying to see if I could add new beard types with like specific models. So that I found was possible as well. So I can have unique beard shapes, for example. So anyone with like a medium-sized beard, long beard, then I can give them a brand new shape for that. So it's not the standard, typical like face model.
so
Arenas, yeah.
I was gonna say, is the idea to put as much from all of the other games as you can into Virtual Pro 2?
Yeah, that's the general idea. But obviously, it's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just that just
No, it's
jumped in my
fine.
brain.
Yeah, that's the general idea, and then I kind of wanted to go a bit further in terms of like, as well as like porting new moves, like creating new move slots as well. So the idea is not to replace anything in the game, but just to add. So that's going to involve a lot of moving data around within the ROM and then trying to get it to read from different locations as well.
You were mentioning the arenas when I cut you off. I just wanted to circle back to that.
Yeah, so the arenas as well. So I'm looking to expand on that. So as you know, Virtual Pro Wrestling has 4 or 5 arenas. So it's obviously quite limited. So I want to expand that as much as I can. So add the arenas from Revenge, obviously update them a bit in terms of the models and textures. Include the arenas from WrestleMania 2000, as well as No Mercy as well. So that's going to be the stage models as well, which is obviously a different format in No Mercy compared to like previous games. So it's going to be trying to convert that into the format that Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 uses.
So with porting over arenas from Revenge, and we've all played these games, so we know that the stage that you walk out on is very much not going to be the stage that you see when that part of the entrance transitions to like the actual arena you play in.
Yeah.
With porting the arenas over, would you be trying to port them with the full stage or just as they appear the second half of the entrance and when you're actually wrestling?
With the full stage.
That's
So
interesting.
so I managed to do it like again, like 2016, 2017. So I posted an image on my Twitter where I was able to import the Nitro stage into Virtual Pro Wrestling 2. And I think I also imported it into WrestleMania 2000. So you may have seen like a few pictures that I posted where Vince McMahon's walking out on the WCW Nitro stage.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
So yeah, that was the stage basically ported into WrestleMania 2000 that time with the textures.
So
again,
we
it
ask
was like another
everybody
test.
this.
Yeah.
Where did you start kind of with the Aki modding? Because everybody but Melonbread seems to have the same like origin point of like the early to mid 2000s. I was just wondering if that was also the case for you.
Yeah, so when I started getting back into the Yaki games, it was around 2005, so No Mercy Zone. So I signed up over
Yep.
there. Actually, before No Mercy Zone, I was actually just browsing the forums on GameFAQs.
I
So
think
I
we all
was,
start there.
yeah, I was into Fire Pro at the time as well, and then just browsing some No Mercy boards, and I saw it might have been Jam Stubbs who posted a picture of the first texture mod, which was probably Rey Mysterio's mask. And then that's when I became intrigued. I was like, oh shit, you can like replace textures in games now. Let's look into this a bit further. And then I saw the link for No Mercy Zone, signed up over there, and I saw a lot of cool stuff that people were doing. Obviously, it was still the early days of texture mods, so everyone's still trying to get in the hang of it. And yeah, that's pretty much where it started off.
So did you have any involvement with the TNA versus ROH mod?
So in terms of TNA versus ROH, that was all mainly Alan Chiz. Alan Chiz, wherever you are, like, say something, mate. It's been a long time since we've heard from him. So the only thing that I contributed to TNA versus ROH were probably like a couple of add-ons, mainly like the six-sided ring hack. Yeah, that was
that's
pretty much
right.
it. Yeah.
So were you part of like the insider board or whatever that you had to have like a certain number of posts to reach where the original version of the game was dropped?
Yeah, so I was the admin of the Impact Zone. So yeah, that was one of my calls at the time.
Okay, so
yeah, go on.
oh, come on.
Yeah, the reason for that was because there were too many at the time what we called leeches. People would just sign up and then just download the mod and not basically contribute anything.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to kind of make the mod available for people that would actually contribute something, like post something on there as well. So yeah, that was like one of the main reasons for that.
So I remember when I finally got access to that, and I may or may not have flooded the board with posts to get access to it, just being honest. There was a thread in there talking about a cease and desist from Ring of Honor. Do you remember anything about that? Because I always thought that was like a really interesting part of the lore of that mod that like never existed outside of that part of the board.
Yeah, in terms of cease and desist, I'm not too sure about it. I mean, like if there was one, then Alan Chiz will probably know about it. But I wasn't made aware of any cease and desist.
Right. I remember there was a thread talking about it, and then it was like looking at the post dates, just trying to remember 20 years ago almost. It was like 2 weeks later, the mod was out, and it was, I guess, somebody from ROH reached out and thought it was like a commercially released product or something. And it was funny because I remember one of the posts being like, "Oh, you'd think it would have been TNA because they just announced they have a deal with Midway, and like TNA pictures, like their actual like promo pictures are being used like all over this project." But yeah, I was just trying to see if somebody other than me remembered that because I always thought that was weird.
Now that you mention it like that, it kind of does ring a bell a bit in terms of someone getting in contact, trying to shut the project down. But I think once it was probably mentioned that it was a free project and no money was being made from it, I think they pretty much gave it a green light.
Yeah, I seem to remember that being what was said in the thread somewhere. That was such a popular mod. Like that was, correct me if I'm wrong, that's like the first big completed high res texture mod until like Barely Legal and Forever Indie in the summer, right?
It was, yeah. 2005,
yeah, like
that was that came out.
Yeah, it was so it was released on the board at the end of 2005, and then I didn't get my hands on it until like January of 2006, and I think the full release was February, where like you could get it if you weren't in like the insider board. Yeah, so like that was the only that was the only full mod for like 6 months. And it was super popular, and I always thought it was weird that like there's like 10 people in the board that knew that part, and it just never got out. It's like it's the one secret in like wrestling video game history that just didn't get out, it seems like. But what a cool mod. Like to see all of that stuff, and it was obviously still No Mercy, but like it really seemed like, oh man, we've opened Pandora's box and anything is possible. And you realize now, like just with the benefit of looking back, if people are just scratching the surface, like you see like what Randy's doing with the ECW ROM hack, or what Ray's doing with the Pride ROM hack. And it's like people are doing stuff now that I don't think any of us would have thought possible 20 years ago, especially stuff that can be used on like actual hardware.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, like so much has changed over the past 10 years as well in terms of ROM hacking.
20 years ago, would we have expected anyone would still be, working on this stuff at all?
Well, I think 20 years ago, some of us still had hope for PWX.
That's true. We were so young and naive.
And now we're old and grumpy.
And bitter, yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been 20 years since PWX.
23. That starts in '02 with Mania X8, and we talked about it last week. Like, it's not even that bad of a game. Like, it's not what we were promised, obviously. But like the idea that caused like some huge like firestorm in the community, like that's so crazy looking back. Because like, imagine being mad that you got a really good version of SmackDown. I would gladly take that over what's being shoveled out by the WWE license now.
Imagine if like someone was really upset over like the Simpsons game or something instead. The Simpsons
Imagine if
wrestling.
it.
So that was
Imagine
terrible.
if someone. It was, yeah. I rented that once as a kid because I was like, I've played basically everything else they have at the video store. Let me play this, and I played it for like 10 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, it was awful. We should review that one day.
Yeah, I mean we reviewed other shitty games, so yeah. We could do that.
Yeah. The only reason I bought the Simpsons wrestling game was to just add it to my wrestling game collection.
Oh yeah, you've got quite a big collection.
I was gonna bring that up to you at some point during the proceedings today. Hold on, I have to mute very quickly. Please feel free to continue the conversation in my absence.
Yeah, you posted. Can you explain like your collection? Because I know you posted the picture and it was like you've got all the copies of like pretty much all the Aki games. I mean, all of them, right?
Yeah, I've pretty much got all the Aki games, so even the most random Japanese ones as well. So every game developed under the Aki Corporation banner, I've pretty much got.
And was it the Aki games or was it something else where you had them in different regions as well? I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, it was the Aki games I've got in different regions. I mean, most of the other games as well that I've bought, I've tried to buy like multiple variants. So like North American variant, European variant, and Japanese variants as well. Just try and get as many games as I can.
So are you picking up those different regions or are you just getting them off like eBay or something?
Yeah, so I use Bai to buy stuff from Japan.
Yeah.
And then eBay as well. So yeah.
Yeah, Bai is kind of incredible on what you can get there for like really cheap. Like I've talked about it before, but I've gotten like figures there and like for like $20 and Mongo's like that's crazy. How did you get that? And I'm like, oh yeah, Bai. And actually I just bought like Tecmo World Wrestling randomly for like $10 on there a few days ago.
Great game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's complete unboxed, so I was like, that's very cool.
Yeah, I managed to find a brand new copy of Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 on there as well. So I just got that yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Gave it a once over. It's definitely brand new, unopened.
God. It's crazy to find those. Yeah, to find those out in the wild these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts.
I had a similar level of like sicko thinking when I was putting the Fire Pro collection together. It wasn't just enough that I have Fire Pro 1 and 2 for the GBA, but I need Final Fire Pro and Fire Pro A. And then I was like, well, I need to go rebuy the Japanese version of Returns. And then like I ended up I already had Fire Pro Z, but I hunted down like the collector's edition.
Right.
For the sake of my own sanity. I think the only Fire Pro game I didn't end up with, there was a furry that I used to be mutuals with on Twitter that ended up getting like a booster box of the Fire Pro card game, or maybe like a starter set or something. And that was like the one thing I didn't get because I was like, well, technically yes, that's Fire Pro related, but it's not like one of the games. Also, I couldn't fucking find that shit anywhere, and I looked.
You can find them at Bai.
Can you? Okay. Well, this is like 12, 11 years ago.
Yeah,
and if I knew what Bai was, yeah,
there's a lot that popped up recently.
Yeah.
And I bought a shit ton of them.
I'd like to learn how that game actually works.
I think if you do a Google search, someone did scan the instruction booklet. All you need to do is just translate it and then try and figure out how it works.
I imagine that's probably on like Critical Club, right?
It might be.
Every manual in existence is on there when it comes to wrestling games, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff on there. So, do you have a preference for the Aki games? I feel like we ask everybody that too, and it always boils down to like one of three games. And it's not like there's that many anyway, but
Yeah, my favorite is Virtual Pro Wrestling 2.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah.
I've noticed that's like the sentiment amongst a lot of the people that are really deep in the weeds with the ROM hacking. Everybody has their reasons. What's yours?
So for VPW2, I think mainly the reason that I got into the game was I found out it was AJ Styles' favorite game, and then AJ Styles is my favorite wrestler. So if he's promoting it and saying this is the best wrestling game ever, I was like, you know what? Let's give it a go. And you know what? He wasn't wrong. Definitely is the best wrestling game ever. You got so many different fight styles, so many moves, even match types as well, like in terms of the shoot fighting and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's quite diverse.
There's
I've
something.
always found it fascinating that's AJ's favorite wrestling game too. That never struck me. Like I remember hearing him talk about that in like the 2000s, and it was so strange because like how the hell do you know about this? How's your answer not No Mercy? Like everybody, like every other indie wrestler that gets asked about video games, it was like he was the combo breaker. It made me like AJ even more than I did in the 2000s. He was very high on my favorite wrestlers list. He was fucking incredible.
Yeah, I
I
think
agree.
like in the 90s they were passing around God knows what in the locker rooms, and in the 2000s they were passing around copies of like Virtual Pro and shit. I mean, if you remember, like Jericho used to have like Fire Pro gifts and stuff on his old website. So that stuff definitely went around when it comes to like import games. The wrestlers were like, "Oh, look at this crazy shit," and Nate was in some of them. So, um, one thing I wanted to ask about like is like texture replacements. It seems like um, I think pretty much not 100%, but a lot of it these days is just patches and patching in using like um, you know um the basically like the graphics of the original games, and you don't see texture replacements as much anymore. And what's your feelings on like that, like texture replacement projects? Because I always felt like, um, when I was younger and I would download them, it seemed like they would take up like a hell of a lot of space. Especially like some of the projects like the Legends and WCW Feel the Bang. I felt like I was downloading like a lot for these texture projects, and the patches just seemed like it's just the original mod or the original ROM. Sorry. So I mean, what's your feelings on like texture replacements in 2025?
I mean, in 2025, I would say I'm leaning more towards the ROM hacking, so trying to
Mm,
hard code the textures within the ROM. Like I see it every so often, like people download these texture projects and then be like, "Oh, I can't set it up. Texture's not working,"
yeah,
and everything like that. So it's a lot more technical issues there. Like in the early days, yeah, people were able to get it running. You wouldn't find many issues whatsoever. But just like as the years go on, people are just finding it more difficult to install. There's so much going on. Like even the Game Shark hacks as well, they can conflict with the textures and then cause issues. So yeah, so it's pretty much like for me, ROM hacking is the route to go down.
yeah, I agree. I think I saw on Sean O'Connor's YouTube channel. There's one. It has to be a texture replacement called WWF Warzone, I think, and it's like
Yeah.
a no mercy version of the original Warzone game. And I thought that's a really cool idea, but like again, it comes to like texture replacements. I'm like, I just don't want to download like a bunch of textures. I mean, it wouldn't be hard for me. Like I know how to set up the folders and everything. It was just like the idea of it. I'm just like, just can't be bothered.
Yeah, I know.
And I think we talked about this with Ray. Like a lot of work goes into the high res texture mods, but they always look a little strange on like the low poly bodies.
Yeah,
Like that same project done in the Aki style is like a ROM hack. I'm all over it, but like the high res textures look a little off, especially once you see what like Randy's been able to do with ECW. And I know I keep circling back to that, but like I played that barely legal mod by Juice more than I played almost anything else. And like I look at Randy's mod and it's like, or ROM hack, and it's like, oh yeah, no, this was possible. We could have like we got here eventually. We didn't need all of the high res textures and the select screen occasionally doing that weird thing where like the stables like pulse. I don't know if anybody else remembers that happening with some of the texture mods.
Yeah.
I loved those texture replacements when I was a teenager because I thought that was like this is the future. As weird as that is to say, but like I'm happy to see more of like the ROM hacking because it seems like a lot of the stuff that was only thought possible. If I could learn to speak English, that'd be great. The stuff we only thought was possible by like just piling tons and tons of GameShark codes onto like the ROMs. Like it seems like most of this stuff is just possible with like ROM hacking. But SK can confirm or deny this, but ROM hacking seems to be a bit more involved.
Yeah, I would say like any GameShark code that you can do, I mean, you can literally ROM hack it. So if you know a bit of assembly hacking, then yeah, you can convert all those GameShark codes into assembly and then hard code it into the ROM and it'll work.
So
I think too, in regards to like texture replacements and stuff, it's like seeing a new mod, but it feels like it was made in that same era, possibly by Aki, is like a really interesting thing. And I think just like the older you get, the less you want to deal with, making folders and replacement and shit like that. The older I get, the more I want things simplified. It's like I don't want to put too much thought into things anymore.
Yeah, I agree there. I mean, the good old days, like with the Yaki engine, something they've done really well was just keeping it simple.
Yeah,
You look at the
exactly.
games these days, it's just too complicated. So the 2K games, for example, I bought 2K24 last year, and it was just like trying to play it. It's like it's a bit complicated.
Yeah, to me, it's like Extreme Warfare Revenge. Like I love that, and I would play it all the time. And then when like Total Extreme Warfare or whatever came out, and you've got all these different options, and it means more management. I'm just like, hold on a minute, I don't want to do all this. Just let me book the same feuds over and over again, and give me Sophie's report for the month. That's all I want. I assume you've had a chance to check out Grandy's ECW mod, right?
I haven't had the time this week to actually check it out. I know he released another update yesterday, I think it was. So there were some bug fixes that he fixed. I haven't had the chance to test that out yet, so I can't give you my thoughts on it. So at the moment,
I will say the barbed wire match is just, it's crazy to see that working in game the way it does. Just to throw someone against the ropes and see them react to the barbed wire, or like do an attack and see them fall back into it. There was one animation I saw, and I didn't even know this was a thing, and I was just decided to simulate a triple threat. And it was Balls Mahoney, and he got knocked onto the apron, and his leg got caught in the barbed wire before he fell onto the floor. And I was like, I had no idea that was in there, and I was like shocked for a moment. I was like, I just couldn't believe that was something that was in. Obviously it was like based on like Sabu getting like caught in the barbed wire, but it was just crazy to see something like that.
yeah, it is crazy. I mean, like everything that Randy's done over the past maybe 5 to 10 years or within that time, it's insane. He's taken ROM hacking, assembly hacking to a new level.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, beyond just the barbed wire stuff, like the functioning tables, I remember he had like a full-on functioning Hell in a Cell that he showed on Twitter at one point. Because, like, obviously he's working on the No Mercy sequel that people are convinced existed, but it never really did. And everything he's shown from that looks really cool too. Like I think it was Ray that was like, he's really just nothing's impossible anymore. And like his stuff is proof of that. Like I never would have expected a barbed wire match that functions as well as that would ever be possible without one, a ton of GameShark codes, and two, I don't even know if my brain could have perceived it working that well, because like there's all sorts of different animations for people hitting the barbed wire. There's the blood staining the mat, which I didn't fucking think that was ever going to be possible in one of these games. There's like the blood on the different body parts, which is like a weird nod to the Acclaim games.
Yeah.
And just it's so cool. And I can't wait to see what that thing looks like when it's actually finished. But playing it right now, it's like nowhere near completion, and it's still like I love that project more than I love most commercially released wrestling games.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's the ECW game I actually wanted as a kid.
Yeah, I think everyone can agree on that, I think.
I'm sure there's like some Acclaim PS1 era sickos out there.
Oh, screw them.
I would love to talk to them too.
I wouldn't.
I would.
SK, I
like those games.
I have to ask, have you what are your thoughts on UPW?
Yeah, I mean it looks very promising, I would say. I met Sam like a few years ago, so we bumped into each other at All In.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was great guy to speak to. I mean, the project was kind of in its early stages then, but I mean, slowly but surely, I get what he wants to do as well. So he wants to recreate the Aki engine. So he's got all the animations pretty much on point now. I think people are just a bit frustrated about the wait, but I think if you're more than happy to wait, then you are probably going to see a good game. So he wants to replicate the Aki engine where others have failed. So he wants to make sure that it doesn't go in the same direction as them.
I think they've been talking about showing gameplay towards the middle of the month. I think Melon Bread's going to see it on the 12th, if I remember correctly. So hopefully we get that gameplay this month, because I think we're impatiently waiting for it. And I think you see the posts from people that are like, this is bullshit, yada yada. I mean, it always happens. I understand people's concerns. I mean, we've talked about it at length, but yeah, it's definitely welcome. This gameplay footage. I'm interested to see what it looks like. That's for sure.
I mean,
I agree.
The consternation's justified. It's been almost 2 years since we've seen any gameplay footage,
right?
And a lot of reveals and things have been teased and not delivered, both publicly and on Patreon. Like, it's probably time to show something.
Yeah, I'm not saying that people are wrong in their wariness. I mean, we've been through this sort of stuff with wrestling games again and again. I'm just saying that, you see it a lot on different places. But you also see the opposite. I mean, we've talked about it at length with people who are like all in, and this is the best wrestling game of all time, when they haven't played, a second of it, or even really seen a lot of it. It goes both ways. But yeah, it's definitely overdue.
So what did you think of AEW Fight Forever? Because I think we can glean what you think of the 2K games based on what you thought about 24.
So Fight Forever, I mean, the gameplay was good, but that's all it pretty much had going for it in terms of like the edit mode. The edit mode was just awful. I mean, that was shocking. Yeah, that's all it pretty much had going for it. I mean, it was quite limited in terms of the edit mode, in terms of like the moves as well, the appearances.
Yeah.
But the gameplay was the only thing good. Not much else I can say about Fight Forever.
Yeah, and that's the general idea I think everyone has. And I know, Mongo, you were talking about, like, and Melon Bread was talking about the comparisons to like World Tour, and it being like the first game, and not having a lot of context. I will say though, like, in regards to like that comparison, or even, I guess not really comparing to that, but like, they had a lot of different entrances, and like, you've got entrances for people like Chono and like Muto and stuff. and that's fine if the moves are there, but the moves also weren't there. You know what I mean? It's like just doing stuff like that. Like, here's an entrance of so and so, but you don't have the moves to work with. It's like, oh, what's the point? I don't want to create an original wrestler and give them, you know, Rey Mysterio's entrance. I don't care about that. I want to create Rey Mysterio, and if I can't do that, then just don't put the bloody entrance in the game. It feels like a waste.
Well, World
But
Tour also didn't have that feature.
no,
The World Tour comparison works in that it's a bare bones first entry in the series. But also, like we've talked about it a million times, budget related shit happened, and Brian Williams departed during development. And the AEW side thought they knew, and they didn't really.
yeah, I mean,
Because the intention was to have everything, and then they realized that for the money they were spending, they couldn't have everything. And you can't unspend the money on the stuff that, like, I've had it told to me by like two different people now that they actually do kind of regret the mini games.
well, they should.
Yeah, but you can't unspend that money. Like whatever amount it was, like you can't unspend it. So like shit happened, I guess. The theoretical sequel will be interesting because you don't have to spend all the money developing the base. You just pour the money on top of it and hope for the best.
I mean, yeah, the idea of pouring money onto it too is like, you know, the big problem with the video game industry as a whole is that too much money is put into things and they can't get it back. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, we talked about it recently. I think they should make up with Ukes and like
they
Ukes
should.
continue what they started.
There are
Um,
people that are in what used to be called AEW games that are of that opinion as well.
yeah, I think
But
they.
also, just real quick on note of the budget, there's zero chance that a sequel gets the kind of budget that a lot of these get. Like, you're not going to get a $300 million budget AEW game. If like Fight Forever, I believe was like 35 to 40. That's the estimates I've heard. They're
Yeah.
never going to say specifically.
No.
If they put that much into a sequel on top of the framework that they already have with the focus on like animations in the edit mode, we'd probably have a pretty great game. Because again, you don't have to spend any money on what you already have developed, what you've already made. That's already done.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's just building out the stuff that you don't. And we've talked about it too. I think having a Sanders Keel type or a Corey Ledesma type that could keep them on target would have probably helped too. Big fan of Kenny Omega as a wrestler. Him being the like designated AEW liaison. I know there are people in the Frame server that are convinced he was just a figurehead. He wasn't. He was part of the project. He was a big part of getting Washta, and by that association was a big part of the other Aki devs who apparently mostly went uncredited, getting them on the project too. So it's going to be interesting to see. I didn't mean to turn this into another AEW Fight Forever bitch session, but it seems like a week with the current point.
Well, I'll just say this in regards to Kenny. Like, if he's gonna have any input, maybe he can help them find a developer. Because I mean, you know, he's got ties with Capcom. He's got ties with Sega. I was just in the Street Fighter commercial yesterday. Like, take advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably be more beneficial to have either of those as a publisher, and then you just get Ukes on as the
Yeah,
dev.
sorry, I meant a publisher. Yeah,
But also a Capcom developed wrestling game would be really interesting because they have an IP sitting there
yeah.
in the very back of the cellar, which I guess is good at times any to ask. Have you ever played Saturday Night Slam Masters, SK?
I haven't.
What? Get out.
I haven't played it, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's an arcade game from the mid '90s. It's a very fun game. I would suggest when you have free time to give it a look. I mean, surely you have copies of it, right?
No, none of that game.
It's on the Capcom Arcade Collection or whatever it is. I think it's only like a few dollars, but yeah, it's fantastic, and I wish that they wouldn't let that IP collect dust and the Capcom basement where they just keep Blanca or whatever else is down there.
Dino Crisis.
Yeah, yeah.
Can we get a new Dino Crisis game, for Christ's sake? That's a whole different kind of show. So what's your favorite Fire Pro game? Because I feel like everybody has a different answer for that, too.
Well, my favorite Fire Pro game? Well, I spent most of the early days actually playing Fire Pro D on the Dreamcast. So that was a real game changer. So I would say Fire Pro D was my favorite.
A lot of people love that one. Yeah, I love that game. I know that like they made gameplay improvements with like Z and R and obviously World, and there's all the quality of life improvements. I love the roster of Fire Pro D so freaking much. Because like
D was like one of those ones that absolutely was a big one for introducing people to the series, because I remember like just listening to like Wrestling Observer at the time, and a lot of people used to call in and be like talking about it, and then other people would be like, "Oh yeah, I just bought this game and it's great." And I remember Brian Alvarez saying like, "Oh, we might have to buy copies of this." So yeah, it was definitely one. It also helped with the popularity of wrestling at the time, right? You know, it was going down a bit, but it was still a big deal. So yeah,
it hadn't really started to slide by that point, because
right.
D launched in like what, March of 01, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that thing hits like right before the wrestling business hits the fucking iceberg. right before the asteroid hits.
Has anyone done any modding on those games at all?
I think there was a translation for Fire Pro D.
I think it was like a camera.
I want to say I've seen that.
There was like a camera thing, right, for D, where you could have like
might have been.
you had like a camera in like the front row or something like that. I think it was D that somebody did that for.
Yeah, it does kind of ring a bell. I remember seeing pictures of that.
I think somebody, when Returns came out in the US, they did like a camera hack with like an action replay.
No, maybe that's what it was. I can't remember. I thought it was D. Maybe I'm thinking too early.
It might have been for D as well. I remember the Fire Pro Returns one and thinking this looks wrong.
Oh yeah. The same reaction, but it was a cool idea.
I also have to ask, since we're talking Japanese games, what are your thoughts on King of Colosseum?
You know what? I tried to play it, but I know people love King of Colosseum, especially number 2. But for me, it just felt a bit... Yeah, the gameplay wasn't for me, I would say. The animations weren't as smooth. So I was just like, you know what? This is not for me. So I just like reverted back to the Aki games.
You know, Melonbread said the same thing.
I think the thing about King of Colosseum 2, I mean, to me, it's the best wrestling game ever made, but it's not as welcoming, obviously, as the Aki games. And I think that's what causes a big divide. Like, if you go from Aki, where, you know, it's a single button grapple and everything's so easy to pull off, and King of Colosseum, it's timing based and it's not as simple. So I think that's something that causes a big divide. Funny enough, they were actually playing Green on AEW Games YouTube channel the other day. I thought that was interesting. Not 2, but Green.
Really?
Yeah. It was Penelope Ford was playing against one of the Outrunners.
Jesus.
They could have at least played the second one.
What's that?
They could have at least played the second one.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, that's what everyone goes to. I mean, that's considered like it's a lot more polished in terms of just like, you know, graphics and like camera angles and everything. It's the one everyone goes to. But yeah, for whatever reason, they had Green, and I was like, that's interesting, because I saw people on Twitter were asking like, what game is this? And people were like, it's King of Colosseum 2. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not. It's Green. You can tell. But it was still cool to see. I mean, they didn't do a lot because they didn't really know what they were doing. And that's the problem sometimes when you see people new to the game and they're playing it, but just the idea that they exposed some people to it was cool.
Oh, we've talked about this a bunch because remember, circling back to Fight Forever, they were doing those AEW game streams where people, like, shout outs to Brody Lee Jr., but, like, not the best way to show off your video game because he clearly never played it before. Like, that Adam Cole Kenny Omega match that they did at, what was it, Gamescom? That was like the perfect showcase of that game because that made that game look fucking incredible.
Yeah.
And then all of the AEW game stuff going into it was just people sitting down with a controller and mashing buttons, and you had Uno off to the side, like, yeah, this plays like the old games. It played like you gotta remember how the old games the controls were, and it's like, brother, you're not helping.
I think something that did a lot for it too, and this was, not that long before the game came out, but the Deadlock and like New Legacy videos when they really wants to show off like the skateboard and different stuff like that, and the throwing weapons and stuff, which went, I think, a long way into getting some eyes on the game. Not enough, but like that was stuff that they hadn't shown off before, and was a big deal at the time.
Do you think it would be possible to port the propane bomb from Fight Forever into the Aki games?
You know what? I don't even know what the animation format would be in the Fight Forever games, so
yeah,
there's probably a whole lot to it. But maybe with the animation editor, you can probably try and replicate it by hand.
Yeah.
Oh, I meant like just taking the idea of it, like replacing like Al Snow's head or something with it. But that would also there's all the shit like where it explodes, and that would have to have unique animations on top of that. I just thought about all that.
Yeah, it's probably like shoving Hulk into the Batmobile,
It might be possible.
It's not a good fit, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. I just that hit me in the brain, and I was like, damn, that would be something if we could, even if we could get into Virtual Pro 2 and you could, throw a propane bomb at Hicks and Gracie.
Could you imagine?
I mean, I have imagined on numerous occasions.
Damn.
I have said fuck the Gracies on social media so many times in my life.
Oh yeah,
and I mean it.
Don't blame you.
And I meant it every time. So have you looked into like hacking or modding like the SmackDown games at all, or are you not a fan of the SmackDown games?
I mean, I used to play them when I was younger, but in terms of hacking them, I did think about it on a couple of occasions, and I was like, nah, probably not do that. Because at the time, I think hacking those games was it was like the early days and stuff, so there wasn't much resources going around for it. So that's probably why I reverted back to the Aki games.
I know absolutely nothing about hacking, but like, is it a different process from like hacking a Nintendo 64 game to like a PlayStation game, or is it like similar? Or
I think it could be similar because in a PlayStation game you have separate files within the ISO image, so you can probably easily modify them. Whereas the Aki games, or like a cartridge-based game, everything's pretty much all in one big file. Like if you wanted to replace something, then you'd have to extract it from the ROM, then inject it back in, and when you inject, it kind of recalculates everything, all the other data around it.
Right.
But yeah, it's probably not as easy as like the PlayStation games.
The idea of like even attempting hacking is just like scares me. It just breaks my brain. I'm just like, I'm never gonna do anything like that because like I have a tendency to start and stop things as well. So I'd be like, probably come up with a cool idea and then I'd just be like, just leave it, never go back to it. Yeah, I mean, I wish I had the patience and the skills for that type of stuff because I'd love to do something with like Virtual Pro or No Mercy, but just No, I'm not going to put my brain through that.
I mean, it depends what you want to hack. If it's something easy like texture replacement, then you've got Freem's VPW Studio, which helps a lot with that. So you can just replace
Yeah.
files in the file table. If you want to like just change rosters around or like the stables, then you can easily do that as well. Yeah, there's lots of cool things you can do with VPW Studio. So just check it out.
I brought it up last week, but I would love to see something like FMW. You know, sort of like Randy's ECW project, or like I had an idea of and I know Mongo, I know you know about the show, but the weekly Pro Tokyo Dome show, for people who don't know, was like a huge show at the Tokyo Dome that had different matches from different promotions. So I think it would be cool to have like a mod project that incorporates all the wrestlers from that, and that had like a barbed wire match as well, so you could bring that in. And then you've got like, you know, All Japan, New Japan, Joshi, and all this different stuff, and like just incorporating all that into one game, as like a representation of that event, I think would be a really, really cool idea. But yeah, it's something that I'd probably never try myself. If somebody wants to do it for free, I'll play it.
I think the closest at the moment is probably going to be Randy's ECW project with the barbed wire ropes. But
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't know the first thing about trying to implement that.
Yeah, it's that event was so like special at for years there was only like a fan cam of like the screen in the dome that someone recorded, and like a much better quality video came out, and it was a huge deal. And yeah, I just thought like if you were to do something, just having all that different styles in one game where it's all represented and these different characters, I thought would just be a brilliant idea. Mongo, if you could do something, what would it be?
I would probably just take that WWF Legends mod and make that like a proper ROM hack. It's a
Yeah,
super boring answer, I know, but like through these, like Ray's about to drop the JMMA game I've always wanted. Randy's already given us the ECW game I've always wanted. Whoever it is working on that SmackDown 2 ECW ROM hack is about to give me the other ECW game I always wanted. And you know, like throw a dart at any given number of the Japanese wrestling games that have actually come out, and you have basically all of the New Japan and All Japan games I would have ever wanted.
mm-hmm.
What I don't have is a wrestling game that's actually kind of good that represents the era of the WWF that I actually like.
Yeah.
The most in like in 87 to like 92, like full conversion of No Mercy would be great. I don't know how hard or involved changing the story mode would be, but
Yeah.
like the idea of somebody recreating the Hogan Andre Piper's Pit thing in No Mercy is really funny to me.
Mm.
You'd have to replace one of the backstage areas with Piper's Pit, I suppose, but like we don't need the boiler room anyway for 80s WWF.
True.
But it would probably be that, or like I would, if I had the wherewithal and the know-how and everything, it would just be Virtual Pro 3. Basically, like this game comes out in late 2000 or early 01. Instead of the All Japan license, it has the Noah license. So you have like 20, 25, 30 Noah wrestlers, and the rest are just, you know, New Japan, whatever you would consider the All Japan roster to be at that point. Probably just like Kawada, Fuchi, Kea, and Tenyu.
Yeah.
And then like the obligatory like Hakutogi. So you'd have like Sakuraba, Takada. Vanderlei Silva wasn't quite such a big deal by that point. It would be like Sakuraba not having the double wrist lock in Virtual Pro 2. Like that's comes out right before that's really a thing.
Maybe like Vochanchin, was he in there then?
Yeah, like Curve of Chanchin, obviously Mark Coleman. And then you know, because it's early 01, you'd have like a little freelancer group that would probably be like your Hayabusa, Hashimoto, trying to think. Well, I guess technically late 2000 would be where the roster would cut off. So I think Hashimoto was still technically considered part of the New Japan roster at that point. I don't know, but
Yeah, I
like
think so.
Virtual Pro 3 would be the ideal one. Um, arena wise, you'd have Korakuen, you'd have Ryogoku, even though Noah didn't run it in that era. Ariake Coliseum, Budokan, Tokyo Dome. I would be a sicko and include Osaka Prefectural Gym because that arena is the site of some of my favorite matches of all time, and it's like grossly underrepresented in video game form.
Mm.
Geez. I don't know. Yeah, Virtual Pro 3 would actually probably be the thing now that I'm thinking about it because I've always wondered what if. Now, granted, realistically, Virtual Pro 3 would have probably just been a PS2 game. So then we got that. That's like a whole. You'd have to hack Def Jam Vendetta, and that's just nobody's ever going to do that.
No.
But it would be really silly if somebody could somehow figure out a way to Frankenstein models from All Star Pro Wrestling and to Def Jam and make that fucking thing happen. But yeah,
That'd be
Virtual Pro
wild.
3 or Legends WWF game because those are, as I look at it right now, those are the two things that are kind of missing for me.
Mhm.
And
I
I
swear,
don't know. You know what?
Sorry,
You might
go
be
on.
able to do Virtual Pro 3 on top of Virtual Pro 2. I mean, a lot of the roster's already there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I s-
you could do that as well. I mean, I am creating a model tool for Blender, so hopefully you can create some custom models, change the models up a bit if you need to. And then, yeah. I mean, I know there was someone, again, like probably about 10 years ago, by the name of Jazz, who
Yep.
was working on a Virtual Pro Wrestling 3 mod for No Mercy. So it was a lot of custom. I wouldn't say it wasn't custom mods, but they were just like individually hacking the points within the game using game shark codes. Just trying to customize the arenas to make it look more authentic. Geordie, aka Lightning, was also helping out with that mod. I know he's working on a lot of things at the moment, especially when it comes to No Mercy. I don't want to give out too much information, but he's from what he's shown me, the guy's done some amazing things.
I remember the Virtual Pro thing you're talking about because I would check that Twitter account once in a while, like not frequently. And it always seemed like there was at least one new thing every time I looked, and I would get really hyped. And then I would look at how long ago the post was, and I would just be like, project's dead. And then I would check back like a month later, and there'd be something like way more recent, obviously. And I'd be like, oh, look at this. That just feels to me like, even over the WWF Legends one, that's probably the most interesting because I really love early Noah. I love early 2000s Japanese wrestling as a whole. Like that whole interpromotional, like, oh shit, everything's going down era. I love that shit so much. And then obviously beyond that, like a hypothetical fourth game, getting into like the 03 time period where everything's really starting to crash. But also like All Japan's built itself back up a little bit. Like that stuff's far more interesting to me as I sit here right now. The other side of that would be just doing a full on like Legends game. Like basically take the Legends of Wrestling roster and
yeah.
make a game that doesn't suck.
Yeah, that I think I mentioned that last week as well, which I think would be
Yeah.
a very cool thing. I swear I'm the only one who remembers a project called VPW2K. And I want to say this started up not long after VPW2 came out. So it was like maybe like 2001. And they were talking about updating the game and adding all this stuff, but they were also talking about putting them on actual cartridges at the time. And like it just seemed
I know Frame was talking about trying to do that for a long time as well, so it might have been Freem's project. I might be wrong.
maybe I thought maybe I asked him about that, but I can't remember. But I just remember like there was all this stuff promised, and then it just dropped. Like it was dead because the idea of like putting it on cartridges in like 2000, 2001 was obviously, sort of unrealistic expectation. I think they were talking about like making like gold cartridges or something. and like selling them to people and shit like that. It just seemed like such a wild idea, and obviously it was. But yeah, that was like my earliest memory when it comes to like like the modding and stuff like that. I suppose you could say.
I really wish we could access some of those like early 2000s. I would love to see. I guess it's more mid 2000s, but I would love to go back and see how cringeworthy a lot of our posts on like No Mercy Zone were back in the day.
I don't want to see my posts, to be honest.
I
I
feel
remember
like
those days.
yeah, because like we were all dumb teenagers. I just remember like really stupid wrestling arguments breaking out in the replies on like people's texture mod posts.
Sounds about right.
Like somebody made I don't even remember who it was. It might have been the day that HIW was like, just request somebody and I'll make them. So I was like Bruiser Brody and he did that. And then somebody else requested somebody else. And then he did that. And then that was the thread where people were like, why would you make a mod? This guy sucks. And it was just, it's like 0506. Somebody disagrees with you on the internet. How are you going to handle that? Not like a responsible adult because we were all fucking teenagers.
I mean, that sort of shit happens today. I asked for Toshiaki Kawada over a pencil, and people went nuts to me. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's a obscure Japanese wrestler. Toshiaki Kawada.
Yep.
But that's also a really stupid person saying that, so whatever.
True.
So what are some of your other favorite wrestling games beyond the Aki games in Fire Pro?
Well, I did play SmackDown 2 a lot in the early days. Before that, just trying to think. Yeah, there weren't any earlier games that I really enjoyed playing. I mean, I played Raw a few times on the Super Nintendo. For me, it was just too difficult to play. Maybe again because I was quite young and didn't know how the game worked. Warzone, Attitude were, for me, terrible games. Too many button combos and everything. So every time you just hit the start button, go to the move set, find out what the combo is, then go back into the match. I was like, no, this isn't how a game should be.
Well, see, that's where you're wrong, brother, because what you do is you buy the strategy guide, you have that open, and you still press the start button, but you don't have to do the extra moves list thing. You just kind of look at the strategy guide, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to remember this. And then like 45 seconds later, you'll look back at it because you didn't actually remember it.
It's another way to make money. Get people to buy the strategy guides.
Yeah. I will say though, like as I got older, I started to realize like there's the same like 6 button combos for everybody. So that made the games a little bit easier to play for me. But like I only go back when I want like a fucking real weird nostalgia hit. And at this point, the only ones I'm ever going to go back to play are the ECW games. And I don't even know if I would at this point because I have Randy's ROM hack. And it uses like music and stuff from those games anyway. So they're a very interesting example of how nobody really had it down in terms of like how to make a wrestling game, at least in the West. In Japan, they'd figured it out like way before anybody in the West had a clue. But you see the Western devs, which basically just amounts to Acclaim, and you look at their entire catalog, and they were throwing shit at the wall with those games. Like, you had the button mash games, which gave way to like the fighting game type. I mean, it's the best way to describe those PS1 games. They were just fighting games, not particularly good ones. And then, like with the Legends of Wrestling games, like there's some ideas there. They never got fully realized. But you look at like compare those Acclaim games to like their Japanese contemporaries, and it's like, yeah, if you were buying the Western wrestling games that didn't have a THQ logo on the box, you were pretty much fucked. Yes, Jesus. Warzone had Kane though, so it was cool with me when I was a kid. I just want to say that. Did you ever play Nitro or Thunder? What are your thoughts on Inland Productions?
Oh God. I mean, like Nitro was terrible. I don't know what they were thinking there by asking Inland to actually produce or create that game. Played it once and never went back.
I think I have an idea. They were like, we're going to interview a bunch of developers and we're going to give money to the most batshit insane motherfucker that walks through the door today. And they were like, nobody's raw enough for this. And then whoever it was from Inland came in and they were like, oh no, give him money. I want to see what the hell they do here. Those games are horrible. Yeah. I played them a lot more than one time. You were smart. You stopped. I didn't. What are your thoughts on the rants at least?
I mean, it was cool at the time. Pretty unique. I don't think any other game had rants at the select screen, like why you should pick me and all that kind of stuff. But that was probably the only good thing about those games.
You didn't like the Disco Arena?
No. Like I said, I only played it once, so I probably didn't even get to the Disco Arena.
Yeah, the random. Okay, well, here's the thing. You need to look up footage of the Disco Arena, and then I need you, please, to figure out how to implement that in the Aki games, because it's the one gameplay thing from those games I'm ever going to say anything nice about. It's such a stupid arena, man. Don't listen to me. My ideas are not good sometimes.
That's probably the worst idea.
Oh no! See, I was also about to. So that was the second worst idea. The worst idea was like, could you also import the YMCA taunt that both wrestlers do whenever you input a button combination?
Oh wow!
Yeah, they were on some shit with those games. You could also get your opponent counted out if you just kept spamming the command to do the YMCA dance. I literally beat the title mode because the title match was in that arena. And I threw whoever the hell it was out of the ring and just kept doing the deal.
I mean, you can't say those games weren't innovative. Who else was doing
that? Well, yeah. What are your thoughts on
Yeah, I was saying the Aki games have the Aki taunt, and then you got the THQ taunt as well. That's probably closest you'll get to YMCA.
Yeah. I always thought it was weird the THQ man didn't appear in any of the games outside of the Aki ones. Where the hell was THQ man in Thunder? That's what I want to know.
Was his mask in SmackDown 2?
I believe it was.
I think so, right?
I was going to say, I think. Imagine if he was an unlockable. There'd be no informative video packages, though, so nobody would get it. So, do you watch any current wrestling? Because I find that everybody from the Aki community seems to not watch current wrestling except Ray, and that's only seemingly sparingly.
Well, I don't watch it like every so often. Like I'll probably just keep up to date in terms of like just going on Twitter to see what's happened. When it's like Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, then I'll watch it. I know Money in the Bank is tonight, so I'm not sure if I'm going to watch that or not.
It is?
Yeah, I believe it's tonight.
It is, yeah.
I had no clue.
Yeah, I only knew because I watched some of SmackDown last night because there was nothing on. But otherwise, yeah, I wouldn't have known.
There's always something on. That's the thing about it. What do we have on this card right now? Oh, Lord. Okay. Yeah, that's... It's really just 4 matches?
Yeah, it's like the women's, the men's, and there's like... Is it like Cena and Logan Paul against... is it Jey Uso?
Cody and Jey Uso, yeah. And Lyra Valkyria, I think I said her name right for once.
Yeah.
Against Becky Lynch for the Intercontinental title. This sounds dreadful. Honestly, like... okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to look at the Money in the Bank card live on the air, guys. I really should know better.
I think some of the decision making that WWE making like recently is just like, why?
I've been
It is
thinking
kind
that
of fascinating.
for the past 20
Like,
years, but yeah, recently.
yeah. But like recently, like I've noticed a little bit of a shift in how people talk about WWE. Like they finally, like they had that couple of years of goodwill coming out of like getting Cody. It seemed like was when things started to turn around. And lately, I don't see a whole lot of like positivity. Like the R-Truth thing sent a lot of people over the cliff.
Yeah.
But like ever since WrestleMania, I've just seen like a growing sentiment of like negativity towards their product. And like I see so many people talking about how they've ruined the opportunity with the John Cena retirement run and like all of this other stuff. And it feels like if they did all of the same stuff like last year, I don't think people would have batted an eye.
Mm.
But it feels like because like you guys were both there when this happened too. It really feels like we hit the iceberg sort of like they did in 01. It took forever for them to cool off. It was really into 02 and you really felt the effects of it in 03. But it feels like we're starting to watch like the gradual slide in terms of like their perception. They're never going to fail financially. Those media rights deals, that company's never going to go away, sadly. But it feels like there's a much more negative sentiment and connotation to discussion about WWE in the last like month and a half since WrestleMania was a month and a half ago. And it's been really fascinating to watch because I've noticed concurrent to that has been a turnaround in how people talk about the AEW product.
Yeah.
It's very weird to watch these things happen in real time. So what did you think of WrestleMania, SK? Because we talked about it, I think, when it happened, I think.
I mean, it was a mixed show. I mean, there were a couple of good matches. Apart from that, it was just a really poor show. I mean, like, it was like a Royal Rumble for me, I think. It was like, they're like really pushing it. It's like, yeah, the winner of the Royal Rumble will be main eventing WrestleMania. I was like, yeah, right, that's actually going to happen. When was the last time, apart from Cody, that a Royal Rumble winner actually main evented WrestleMania? Jey Uso wins the Rumble. Cena obviously doesn't. And Jey Uso is opening WrestleMania night 1. Yeah, what kind of main event is that? I mean,
It's
yeah, he won the
basically
title.
it's like the deal the Demon had in WCW, where if he has a match on the card, it's like, oh, it's considered a main event, even though it's not the actual main event, right?
Yeah.
That match was terrible too. I caught that one. Like the highlight of that match, honestly, was the Jey Uso press conference afterwards because I saw clips of that on Blue Sky. That boy was tanked. He literally says, "I am damn near world heavyweight champ," while the belt is on the table right next to him. You know what, though? Shout outs to him. He got over. People really liked him, and he actually got the belt. Yeah. It's not like everybody else that kind of had a thing that, but also he's part of the Samoan family. He's going to be taken care of. But it was one of those things where people were like dunking on the idea of him getting the belt. Like, he's fucking over. Ride it. Ride that shit as long as you can.
Yeah, I mean, if it was me, I wouldn't have put it on him just because the way I am. But I understand like the idea behind it. Absolutely. But yeah, the match quality has been not very good.
I also understand it's just him, Oos.
That's right, yeah.
That theme song is going to be stuck in my head for the next 5 days now. Oh, goodness. So you haven't played WWE 2K25 then? I know you mentioned getting 2K24 earlier.
No, I haven't played 25. I mean, I just think it's just the same game as last year. I don't see any real
it seems
improvement.
That way.
And then my faction is obviously that money-making scheme. It's like, shit, you have so many good wrestlers just locked behind my faction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to waste my time just playing that.
I was actually just about to ask what you thought about wrestling games pushing more towards the like yearly sports game live service monetization. Because a lot of people didn't think it was going to be that way with 2K, and it wasn't for the longest time. Like 22 was where they put my faction in, and it was like, oh, it's not going to be a money sink. We promise it's not going to be a money sink. Now, like you said, they have so many alternate attires that are locked behind that mode where you either have to grind or pay real money. And we've talked about this for like 2 years now on the show. I shouldn't have to spend any more money than I did on the big deluxe version of the game. I shouldn't have to spend a penny extra to get like 2000 Scott Steiner.
Yeah.
Or like Mankind or Cactus Jack or whoever that, like Godfather. Why do I have to pay money for the fucking Godfather?
Yeah, it's crazy in the two because some of them they aren't like, it's not even like a different model really. It's like the same model just with different clothes on, right? And I see people talking about, oh, you have to spend all this money and stuff, and yeah, you do. The way around it is if you have a PC, you get Tribute and you get everything for free. Like I have all that stuff, and I haven't put a cent towards my faction. I can't imagine ever paying for my faction. So yeah, they added like John Cena 25 and stuff like that, which they're like, it's new, and I'm like, I've had this for a little while now. They talked about like Alexa Bliss 25 as something that was new on, and I was like, I've had this for weeks. So yeah, I mean, if people can run it on the PC, I would highly recommend. If you get the game, that's the way to go, and just download Tribute, and you get all that stuff anyway. Don't give them any money for my faction; it's not worth it. Like it's like I said, a lot of the cases it's just the same models. You can literally download a creation of community creations. Will have made like John Cena's new T-shirt or whatever, and it'll be the same thing basically. So it's pointless.
You know who wouldn't have done this shit? The Aki Corporation.
I thought you were gonna say Inland.
Oh no, Inland wouldn't have done it. Inland would, dude. If Thunder existed in the era of DLC, we would have gotten like, because like we've seen what these games are like. We would have gotten like free DLC packs with like 64 more characters, and the way the unlockables worked in those games, if you guys remember, they're just reskins of whoever's in that same slot on the first page. So like, we would have had like 10 deals. We would have had like 2,000 wrestlers in Thunder. They would have just pumped them out, or they would have charged like $2 for them. So like 10 packs, that's $20, 600 wrestlers. Fucking let's go.
They would have had like a pack of monkeys and like GameStop employees and all this random shit. It'd have been great.
They would have went around and took pictures of everybody in the office, not just the devs. Like, we're gonna go get the mail clerk, the fucking the lady from accounting,
the UPS guy. Yeah.
I do have to ask this real quick. SK, you've seen the Aki 2026 account on Blue Sky, right?
Aki 2026 account?
Yeah, there's like a, hold on, let me.
It's like an account that popped up that it seemed like it was an official Aki account, or at least that's what it was presenting itself as. And then obviously the announcement came from UPW where they had acquired the rights to the Aki name and logo.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, well, that must be related, but then it seems like it wasn't. I don't know, it was a weird thing.
I don't see it anymore on Blue Sky now that I do the search. It seems to be the case.
So like Aki got UPW got the name, and so they said, well, fuck it, we're not going to go with this anymore.
Hold on. Let me take a gander up into my conversation with Freem, because I know I sent that to Freem.
Wasn't it like someone...
it's been suspended.
I took a screenshot of. I'm not sure what that was about. So
here's the interesting thing. I messaged Freem and I actually said Aki Club tweeted this out, so I assumed it was you running the account.
No, I did see that on Blue Sky.
So now I'm wondering what the hell that was, because the page, I remember the page had no English on it. It was all
it was all Japanese.
It was all like, yes. So I'm wondering what the fuck that was.
I have no idea. I mean, when I saw it, I was like, is this someone playing a prank?
That was kind
Just
of what Freeman I figured it was after a bit, and then of course, like Urbusa said, the UPW news came out. Obviously, the 30th anniversary of the Man Breeze and then Aki is next year.
Yeah, if you remember too, that account had a date on it. It said like
Was it
something.
August?
I can't remember what it was, but they were teasing a date. So somebody was trying to pull something. I don't know.
Or it might be one of those Fire Pro pranks again.
Oh
Fire
no!
Pro
It was Sonny
yeah,
Bone.
no. Sonny
Oh, damn,
Bone's
son of
gonna
a
have to
bitch.
come on the show someday and answer for his fucking crimes.
I think he's in hiding. Actually, I think he moved to like Guatemala or something.
I could see it. I
Yeah,
absolutely could. I really just want him on the show so I can see if he still has all of the old Fun with Ahmed videos, because there's
he probably
obviously the
does.
Warzone. There's the Warzone rants that everybody remembers. Those are still up there. But there's one, it's like a promo with him and Austin from Raw. And like, I just remember it, like the subtitles being the most insane shit. Like, first of all, became Birds Will Fall.
That was the name of like something that he did. Birds Will Fall. I remember that. Like a website or something. Maybe something on the Acclaim Supercard. I don't know. I have that
That could
Blu-ray around
be,
somewhere.
yeah. I wish I did.
Yeah. There was also, I remember like he did an Ahmad promo that was from the Skydome Raw, because I remember how unique that show was. That it was it wasn't the regular Raw set, and you could tell it was like a different crowd and stuff. And I just remember that specifically. It was a Ahmad backstage promo. I think that was one of with the Undertaker actually.
Yeah, there were a few more of those that are kind of like lost to history now.
Yeah, unfortunately, like Terry
Unfortunately.
Funk's Satchel promo.
I had another question for SK and I completely freaking blanked. I apologize.
Do you know the Satchel promo, by the way?
I don't know that
I
promo.
I feel like I do, yes.
It was when he was feuding with Foley around One Night Stand, and it was a big thing on the Brian and Vinny show back in the day. And I can't remember the whole thing, but he's like, my daddy told me not to trust a man whose ass is wider than his shoulders. And that's what you are, Foley. And then he just starts screaming, Satchel ass. And they used to play that a lot. It was on like WWE.com, and the whole thing has never been found. It's lost media.
It may just pop up on WWE Vault.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. I was hoping that, when he passed away, they put up a video, and I was hoping that would be a part of it, but unfortunately it wasn't.
Speaking of, they put up the first fall of one of the holy grails for a lot of us, the AAA ECW crossover from Chicago at the amphitheater.
Yeah, I saw that.
And apparently that stuff was filmed by the ECW camera crew, not John Arezzi,
What the hell
which
did they
is
put
what
up
we
the
all
full show?
thought.
They must have access
Yeah,
to the
that
full
was
show, right?
well, that was the thing I was wondering, because they didn't put up the full 20-minute match. They put up the first like 9 minutes.
Strange.
And there were people that in the live report to Meltzer called it the best match they'd ever seen live. And based on the first fall, which is that's not a fair way to judge a match anyway. But like based on the first fall, I was like, I don't see this. I don't see it at all. This is very much a standard 1995 AAA trios match from the TV. And like the finish is like a no contest, but in the first fall you see Ray pin Psicosis. So I'm wondering how much of the show they have filmed, because that match was shot from the hard cam and they didn't move that shit. Like they missed dives on that footage. Did you see that footage, SK?
I haven't seen the footage yet, but I've seen it on the I've seen it pop up on suggestions of what to watch next on YouTube. So yeah, I'll probably give that. I'll give that a
It's a
watch.
fascinating watch.
It's incredible amount of stuff that they could pull from their archives, like the stuff that I wouldn't even know about, and the stuff that other people know that they have access to that they could eventually put up. It's the best thing they've done in years and years and years.
I need that Sting Dark match from March '97.
Oh, the one with Scott Hall, right?
Well, yeah, the one where he's basically dressed, and I think they had to have done the shoot with him around that time for Nitro, because I've seen Polaroids of it. He's in like crow face paint and like regular black tights.
Yeah.
Like Chris Zellner from the Between the Sheets pod was there live and said like the crowd was like electric for the whole thing, because it was the first time Sting had wrestled in months,
Mm.
and he's beating up a member of the NWO.
Yeah, that'd been crazy to
And,
see.
and also because it's Scott Hall, I'm willing to bet it was probably a pretty good match too.
Yeah.
Not that Sting wasn't
definitely.
good, because Sting ruled, but like those two together, and also it's not taped, so Hall probably already, or it's not on TV, so Hall probably thought like, ah, fuck it, I'll bump around a little bit. Nobody's gonna see this. I
Would
would
they
be
be
fast.
able?
That.
Would they probably would have? I mean, I assume they'd be able to upload like the most complete version of like Wrestling Summit, right?
That I don't know, because like All Japan Classics aired most of that show, and then the New Japan matches from that show have also aired on TV as well. So the complete show is basically out there. You just have to pay a little bit of money and do some digging. Yeah.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, the WWF only ever released the Hanson Hogan, Warrior DiBiase, and they might have put Jake and Bossman on a tape.
Was the Brett match on his DVD?
Oh, Brett and Misawa was on the Dungeon
Yeah.
Collection. I forgot about that. Yes.
Yeah.
But also that was like, it's obviously in their archive because they've used it as recently as 20, whatever the fuck, when that Brett Blu-ray came out.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always wondered why, through all the years of the Hogan DVDs, oh, you know what? They released the Warrior and Ted match on one of the Warrior Blu-rays too. But like, I've wondered with all the Hogan DVDs they've done, why has that Stan Hansen match never reappeared?
Yeah, I don't know.
Hulkamania 6 was the only US release it ever got, I'm pretty sure.
I think the commentary was it like Mooney and Al Hayes, maybe?
Mooney and Lord Al. Yep.
God, that's crazy.
And I think the Warrior and Ted match might have Vince and Jesse. Well, one of the versions it does. I'm almost certain of that.
Mm.
But I've always wondered, like, would WWE even give a shit about showing the Japanese matches? I mean, they just put up some stuff from When Worlds Collide, but it was, I think, just the Eddie and Ray matches.
I think they put up the minis match as well. I could
That's
be wrong.
great. Yes. No, I saw the thumbnail for that a couple of days ago. I was thinking of the best of When Worlds Collide, which, by the way, it's a fucking 2-hour show, like 2.5 hours maybe. Like, come on. But
Yeah.
it's the whole page is super, super interesting. And in seeing stuff, I always go back to it, like the Triple H Tajiri house show match.
Yeah.
Somebody posts scans of it, it catches fire, and somebody in that company's like, oh, we have this. And there's only 8 seconds missing, and it's obvious what happens in the 8 seconds. It's Triple H walking across the ring while Tajiri is selling. So you can basically form a complete opinion of the match. It's not like you're missing anything essential.
Yeah.
In like those Omni house shows, that shit's really cool. I just wish they would do more of that type stuff. Like, I don't need Money in the Bank ladder matches from 2011. Fucking
No.
go find, like, I don't know, go find like a ladder match with Smothers and Candido from Smoky Mountain or some shit. Like, that Vault channel should be for the sickos. I mean, they gave us the Morishima dark matches too, which never thought I'd see those.
Yeah, there's more I want to see. Like, I want to see the Shima dark match and the Jado Gedo one, and
I want
I'm
to
sure
see FBI versus Dorian Roadkill from Madison Square Garden.
they had that in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, Danny Doring tells the story on Shoot Interview. Like Heyman walks up to them and says, "You guys aren't working the dark match at MSG. This is 1999. It's the FBI and Dorian Roadkill at the fucking ECW arena. And you guys are going to go out there and tear the house down." And so they go out there and they do all of their shit. And when they come back through the curtain, they bitched about, like, you guys did the Heart Attack. Hearts hadn't been on TV as a tag team in that company in years.
Jesus.
This one's doing a power bomb. Oh, Undertaker does the last ride. And Doring's like, yeah, he basically told us that so we wouldn't get fucking hired. And then all those guys get hired years later, and the only one that they don't completely just shit on is Guido.
Yeah.
Very strange. What did you think of the new ECW, SK?
They should have kept ECW dead. I mean, it didn't hit right. I don't know, Vince and his crazy ideas. Oh, let's bring back ECW. I mean, like, yeah, it was okay. Maybe the first, like, the one night stands were okay, but when it came to the actual weekly TV shows, no. I mean, what was with that vampire thing at the beginning?
They had
was
Shelly
just,
Martinez
terrible.
signed, and they were like, we need to put this woman on television. That's like the only thing I could think of. It's a shame because I liked Kevin Thorne. Like, he was a perfectly okay wrestler. But
Yeah.
they just kept giving him gimmicks that were like dead on arrival, like Mordecai.
Yeah, that was awful.
Yeah.
I will say
Yeah, I was
that
like,
I did sort of like the stuff they were doing towards the end with Christian as champion and Regal and stuff. I remember, like, on DVD VR back in the day, that was getting a lot of praise as well.
yeah, there was
But
a
it wasn't
weird turning
ECW.
point. Like, no, it wasn't. And honestly, that first episode of TV, when it was over, I was like, oh, that fucking sucked.
Yeah, you mean like the first episode of ECW on Sci-Fi with, like, the zombie and
Yeah.
shit?
The zombie,
Did they have
the battle royal at the end.
was it the first episode that had DeVito as, like, what was
A
it,
priest.
Macho Libre?
I think so. He's a priest, he's Macho Libre, and then he's somebody else, and then they never use him again.
So that was going to be a weekly thing with him?
It seemed like it because he's on like the first 2 or 3 episodes.
That's strange.
And like, I get the Kelly thing was like somebody heard about the hardcore history or Extreme Warfare Volume 2 thing, like the night Kimona danced atop the ECW arena. But like, just like, I was 14, almost 15. I turned 15 that summer, and I hated that shit with every fiber of my being. And then, well, look, I love Big Show, but they gave him the belt, and I was just like, yeah, fuck it, I don't care anymore.
It's also creepy because Kelly was only like 19 or something at the time, 18, 19. It's
Yeah.
like, you bring her into the wrestling business and that's the very first thing that you do with her.
Yeah, I didn't have that level of critical thought at that time. I was only like 4 years younger than her, and I was like, oh, she's pretty.
It's funny though how, like, some of, like, the current Joshis were their favorite wrestler growing up was Kelly. Like, Hazuki in Stardom was her favorite wrestler, and she met her at WrestleCon, and she was like crying and shit. And like Chi, another independent wrestler, she's part of Suwama's Evolution group. She said recently that she was a big Kelly fan. It's just like so random, you know?
And also, like, Test comes back, and you knew they didn't have a fucking steroid testing policy at that point because you
Yeah.
can look at him.
That roster was really strange.
I would have liked to have seen them do more with like the actual ECW guys instead of everybody that wasn't like RVD, Sandman, or Sabu and Dreamer immediately being turned into a job guy.
Yeah. It was such
Like,
so it was really strange because you got like all these holdouts from the Attitude Era. Like, let's put Hardcore Holly in here and like Test and, you know, Big Show will make him the champion. Just really strange when you think about it.
I'll say this though, Big Show Yeah, I was actually talking with my mom about this because she was like in the living room or whatever watching Sabu stuff like the day Sabu died. I remember when they announced Sabu versus Angle was happening on TV the night that it happened, and that was the biggest fucking thing in my life that day. I was like, "Oh my god, we're getting Angle and Sabu," and there's like a screwball finish, but that's like that and like the run of Angle just shoot headbutting people is like the only two things I remember about him in
Yeah.
fake ECW. And then he took the shoot headbutt thing with him to TNA and did that to Joe. And they were like, "Hey, that came off really well. Please don't do that again."
They should have had him and Shibata, and like they have to have the brain surgery, but you've got like a face-off thing where they put the brains in each other's heads. So you've got like Shibata of Kurt Angle's brain and Kurt Angle of Shibata's brain. You know what I'm saying?
I don't I don't want to think about Shibata working like Kurt Angle
Dude, it would have
or
been a great
Shibata cutting
storyline. I mean,
the kind of promos Kurt Angle was in that Booker T feud in '05 because Jesus.
yeah, okay, never mind. It was a bad idea.
I have a better idea though if we're going with shoot headbutts. Book Kurt Angle in '06 versus Makoto Hashi.
Oh god. What's
Here's
he doing
15
these
minutes. Go
days?
stupid. I think he runs a ramen shop or he works in a hotel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I always got excited when he would pop up on like Japanese shows because I fucking love that guy. He ruled.
Yeah, I think he was getting like a push around the first Destiny show, right? And was he in a tag match?
It's him and
With people?
Akiyama against Marufuji and Suzuki in that match. It was on YouTube. If it's still on YouTube, everybody listening to this podcast and also everybody involved in this podcast should watch that match like immediately.
Yeah, it
Like
was good stuff.
I'm going to watch that match today. That match is amazing. And then they kick Hachi out of Sternus, so you get the Korakuen Hall main event where it's like a couple of weeks after Destiny, and it's Akiyama and Kanimaru against Kobashi and Makoto Hashi.
Hmm.
You might be surprised to hear this match is great. That
Yeah.
Korakuen Hall show as a whole is like fucking amazing. It's another reason why I wish like '05, '06 Japanese wrestling had like decent representation in video game form because I like Wrestle Kingdom, like being the operative word. But if we could have gotten like a Fire Pro in like '06, when you have like the ascendancy of like Marufuji is a heavyweight, they're starting to push Kenta as a guy that might be a heavyweight. Morishima is obviously on the rise. You could do Rikio being a little bit stronger because he did have the title for what was it, 8 months.
Hmm.
And then you have all the stuff that was going on in New Japan with Tanahashi being elevated. Depending on when you put the game out, you could throw Brock in there too. Giant Bernard getting pushed is like we don't know if Brock's going to stick around, so we need another big American former WWE guy that can be booked strongly. Like there's so much shit going on in that era that I wish we had like a solid represent. I mean, I guess Wrestle Kingdom does the job, but not nearly as well as I'd like it to.
But too, like if Aki was still around and doing games, then like when you just think about it, like the game would have been so much more interesting with the way that the
We're
rosters
hitting
were
Mayhem 2 territory right now.
Yeah, I know, but like the first Wrestle Kingdom, it had a little bit of like freelance stuff. But if you consider like the Aki games, you would have had like probably like a boatload of like fictional or legends under fictional names and stuff like that. You know, considering Virtual Pro 2, I think it just would have been a hell of a lot more interesting as opposed to like the roster.
SK, did you ever play the Wrestle Kingdom games?
I didn't actually play them, no.
I don't.
Did you
like
play the
them.
Day of Reckoning games?
Day of Reckoning, yeah, I probably played them a few times here and there. I know they tried to kind of replicate the Yaki engine, but obviously it wasn't the Yaki engine, was it?
No, to me, it's just like I feel like I'm wrong every time I say I don't really like those games because people are just like so for them. But I feel like when I played them, they just feel like so lifeless to me. Like whether it's Day of Reckoning or Wrestle Kingdom.
I will
Like,
say the entire appeal of Wrestle Kingdom is if you like Day of Reckoning, here's a game with like Japanese wrestlers in that
mm,
style. That's
yeah,
like literally the whole appeal. And also there was kind of that like weird feeling of like WrestleMania 2000 Virtual Pro 2 going on with it too, where like the US got a game with that style, that combat system, and then Japan got a version of it a few months later. Now, granted, PS2 Wrestle Kingdom 1 comes out a year after DOR 2, but like the 360 version comes out only a couple of months later.
right.
And then Wrestle Kingdom 2 was like, oh, look, it's the sequel that only Japan gets because they dumped this engine in favor of fucking Smack. But
I
to
mean,
me, like, we talked about it when we reviewed it, the novelty of those two games, it doesn't last long, but for the first couple of matches, it's kind of like, oh, this is something.
I'm glad they exist in a way because like the idea of like having Hayabusa and Onita and some of those guys as licensed wrestlers in a video game is a really cool thing. But it's like when I get down to the matches themselves, and what really kills it for me is like the lack of audio. It just sounds so quiet, and like the one guy saying the wrestler's name every few seconds just it starts to put me to sleep. It's just like it's too quiet. It's distracting. And yeah, the gameplay is just not really been for me. It's like I understand the appeal, but like, do I really want to spend much time with those games? Not really.
Yeah, I get it. SK, have you followed along with the odyssey of WCW Mayhem 2 and all of the stuff we've gotten for that game in the last few years?
Yeah, I've seen the posts that are going around with like the updated models, or Scott Steiner's model, I think it was, that was shown. Um, yeah, I mean, if WCW didn't fold, then you know what, it could have been a good game, but we'll truly never know because WCW got bought out by WWE.
It got handed over. Yeah. Shout outs to fucking Brad Siegel and Stu Snyder for that one.
I can't remember the guy that posted those videos. I can't remember his name.
Evan Hanley?
Um,
Is that
oh yeah,
it?
there you go. Yeah. I think he said he was looking at trying to get some more stuff. So hopefully he does uncover some more because every time that stuff comes out, it just like blows my mind. I don't think there'll ever be a demo. I don't think there'll be ever any like beta or like early footage of actual gameplay. Like I don't think we'll ever get to actually play a little bit of the game, but hopefully at least like some of it exists somewhere. Um, yeah, I'd die to see that stuff.
I think we need to figure out how to rip open the time stream and jump to the timeline where Mayhem 2 came out, WCW didn't fold, 9/11 never happened, and the Pacers won the 2000 NBA Finals. I firmly believe all of those things happened in one of
I
these timelines.
If I travel through time, it'd probably be like a Bill and Ted situation where it's just really fucked up and everything goes wrong.
You just go back to
I'm
the
just
finger poke of
saying.
Doom.
What's that?
Just go back to the finger poke of Doom. I think that's where it all went downhill for WCW.
Yeah,
No, their business stayed strong for like the it's like the rest of '99. It's like early 2000 where shit starts collapsing.
You know what? I'd go back to Starcade '97 and make sure that Sting wins cleanly, as opposed to that bullshit finish.
I'll do them better. I would go back to Starcade '98 and take Kevin Nash's ankles out in the parking lot.
That's another thing. Yeah, I would have
Because you don't
started the
get the
down.
finger poke of doom if Goldberg fucking wins that main event.
Yeah, but like you could have started like the downfall of the NWO at Starcade '97, and of course it never happened. You know, it goes all the way
The
through.
Lapsed fan actually had a
Mhm.
really interesting idea where like Sting beats Hogan at Starcade '97, and then you finish the NWO off Starcade '98. The main event is the same tag from not Starcade, Bash the Beach '98. You basically run back the same main event from '96 with Hogan eating the pin, and then the group just dissolves.
I mean, you could have still done the Wolfpack and had like a splinter group. I mean, the Wolfpack was a very popular group. I mean, it did very well for them. but there should have been a change after 97. And it never happened. WCW just kept losing again outside of Goldberg. So that's the thing, right? It went on way too long. There's a big difference too between WCW 97 and 98. Like you watch 97, the cruiserweights and all this cool stuff, and there's just felt like a focus on different things. Once you get into 98, you can't watch any match without there being commentary for just like Hogan in the NWO, no matter what the match is. And there's just
That's
a lot
all
of
over like 96 too.
yeah, but it gets a lot worse in 98, and there's like just like bullshit all the time, constantly. There's like the comparison I used. There was a match in 97. I can't remember. It was Ultimo Dragon versus somebody. And it was like a very competitive, good match. And in 98, he faces Chris Jericho, and Dean Malenko comes out and chases Jericho to the back, and like Dragon wins by countout. And he's like jumping up and down in the ring, and I was like, this is the difference of the year makes, right? Like you've got Dragon do some like competitive, really good stuff, and the next year it's just like a bullshit finish, and it just felt like a complete lack of focus. And watching 98 over again was not very fun. I'll say that.
I'd rather watch 98 WCW than 98 WWF for the most part, though.
Yeah, with you making the comparison to WWF, me too. But like WCW 98 had started to have its share of really big problems as well.
Yeah, I won't dispute that, but the product doesn't really, for me, fall off the rails until you hit like the summer of '99. But their business doesn't really tank until 2000.
Yeah,
like their pay-per-view buys they start going off a cliff, I want to say, in like the second half of 99, and then I want to say by 2000 there's not a single pay-per-view they do that year that matches like the top like 10 for AEW, which think about that, 2 decades later with the degradation of the pay-per-view business model. You had a promotion. I mean, there's also the thing where like ECW's best number, I don't think it was Barely Legal. And I don't think Barely Legal beats AEW's worst number, which is fucking insane to think about. Because again, 20 years degradation of pay-per-view. But I wish WCW didn't have that kill date, or if it had a kill date, the kill date would have been like 2 weeks after Mayhem 2 came out. You can still hand it over to the WWF or whatever. Fuck it, I don't care. But like, do that shit 2 weeks after we get what would have been my favorite wrestling game on the PS2, just based on that roster and the developer. That would have been great.
Yeah,
but
it puts you in I'll need to start taking my antidepressants if I keep thinking about that game.
Yeah, we've flown too close to the sun a couple of times on this episode.
Yeah, it would have been really special. I mean, even if it was bare bones, if you took a look at Vendetta, like the gameplay was still there, and the roster would have been amazing, and yeah, different timeline.
Like, I never cared that there wasn't a creative character in Vendetta, so like, yeah, give me that game with that WCW 2000-2001 roster, and I wouldn't have given a shit.
Yeah,
you tell me it's a game with Goldberg, Sid, and Scott Steiner, and I don't have a creative wrestler mode? I don't fucking care. Those are the 3 guys I was creating in the WWF games anyway.
Yeah.
God bless Scott Steiner. One of the all-time greats. Criminally underrated. And also a testament to how cool steroids actually are. SK, did you ever play Backstage Assault? Because I feel like that's a game that everybody has played at least once, and none of us have anything good to say about it.
It's another bad game. I don't know. I mean, like, the whole concept of it being purely backstage, I mean, it's a wrestling game. It needs a ring.
I always wondered, like, what if that game had a ring in each area? You know what I mean? Like, would that have helped? Because like the idea of like, you know, like the big loading bay area, like the default arena in that game, like the idea of like a ring that looks like it's like kind of like just cobbled together from like junk parts, that's interesting. But you see how like all of the ring adjacent mechanics work in that game, and it's like, ugh, I don't know.
I mean, the gameplay was bad as well. I mean,
yeah,
Nitro, Backstage Assault, they're pretty much on a similar level. Terrible gameplay. I mean, like, play it once or twice and that's it.
it's really strange too because Mayhem's like not awful. It's not great, but like you go from like a solid like 6 out of 10 to like 2 out of 10. And those 2 points are just because I think some of the stuff in that game is funny. Like
Yeah, I mean,
they fell really hard.
it's literally worse in every way, right? Like the models and just
Textures
everything.
are worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny a few weeks ago when we figured out like there's stuff that EA put in Backstage Assault that clearly was going to make it into Mayhem too, and you can prove that because look at Def Jam Vendetta, the pre-match trash talk, finishers leading to KO.
Yep.
Like that stuff all would have been there in Mayhem too, and it originates from one of the worst wrestling games ever made, one of the worst video games ever made. Like that thing is brutal.
Yeah, it's incredibly awful.
Played 3 hours of that shit for the podcast we did about it.
I didn't put 3 hours towards it. I probably haven't
Yeah,
put
this
3
was
hours
back.
towards it since it came out.
This was back when I would actually play a lot of the games that we reviewed. I would try to make the time in my life to actually put the disc into the PS2 and play more than like 3 matches of the game. Even if the game was good, it's like, I'm going to sit here and play King of Colosseum 2 for like 3.5 hours like I needed a fucking excuse. But like, I played like 3 hours of Backstage Assault, and at the end, I just, my soul felt like dirty.
Yeah, my soul and the soles of my feet as well. I I remember going to the video store when that came out, and the Microplay. I knew the guy that worked in. Just walked in, and he's like, "We don't have it yet," and I was like, and walked back out, and then going in like the next week and renting it and just starting it up and just being like, because I was still a kid at the time. It's like you hope everything that's wrestling is good, or you just feel like it will be. And I just remember playing it and just being like, there was no real defending it. It was just like, this is just really, really, really bad. Like there's no redeeming qualities. Maybe the one thing was like the music, because you didn't have like back then. Of course, you couldn't like go on the internet and download every single theme, so you had like the Tron videos of the music and stuff like that. And I was like, well, at least you've got that. But like everything else is just like absolutely horrible. I think Vampiro's theme was a big one because I love that song. And he'd have his Tron of his theme. That was cool.
Yeah,
But
that's probably the only thing that was good about Backstage Assault, like especially on the PlayStation, was just the entrance videos. But play it on the N64, you got none of that.
oh yeah, that's right.
Didn't the N64 have like only Tony Schiavone and no Bobby Heenan in one of those games too?
That would have been strange.
I want
I
to
thought the
say I
roster would have been the
remember. I want to say I remember hearing it might have been in one of those Joe Gagney reviews. Also, shout outs to Not That Tom Green for being the editor of those videos.
Yeah.
You had nothing to do with Joe's terrible opinions, but I always appreciated those cutaway jokes. But I want to say one of those reviews, either Mayhem or Backstage Assault, only one of the, I might have been Mayhem now that I think about it, only had like one of the commentators in the game. Which would be really strange if there were any lines of commentary where one referenced the other.
Yeah.
Which, now that I think about it, in Showdown Legends of Wrestling, I remember Tony like throwing it to Larry Zbyszko, and then the next line being Bobby Heenan a bunch of times too.
If you remember, the WWE games used to keep commentary from the previous years, so they'd have like Jerry Lawler talking about like JR or something when it was Michael Cole that was doing the commentary now. I think
Yeah.
one of them, was it 13, had kept in like the outtakes of like Lawler saying like, is that line alright or whatever? They kept those in accidentally.
13's a very interesting game to look back on because that game ships with like a couple of major glitches, like the no 2 count glitch.
Mm-hmm.
And they never patched it. And then, a couple of months after release, THQ goes under, 2K acquires, or Take-Two acquires the license.
Yeah.
And we get like one good game after that, which was 2K14. And then, in goods being generous, I don't love 12, 13, and 2K14 the way I love a lot of other games. But compared to everything that's come after with that 2K license, golly gee fucking whiz.
Yeah, I mean,
SK, did you ever play like the later SVR games? Because that's another series that I feel like everybody has like an opinion on.
I mean, I did play 2008.
Oh,
I thought it
I'm
was
sorry.
okay. I thought it was okay. I mean, not the greatest, but yeah. I think the main reason I bought that was because of ECW, or the new ECW at the time.
Shout
Like,
outs to Sabu.
yeah, Sabu in there as well, but I think they excluded RVD. So RVD wasn't in that game, which was a bit unfortunate.
Right. Well, there was another big exclusion from that game too
Yeah.
of the career mode. Although I think Scott J has, did he find the RVD model or did he just drop the 07 model in? Because I swear I've seen something about 08 where RVD is back in.
I haven't been
I think it
watching
might
his.
have been a 07 conversion.
Oh, okay.
That would make sense because I think he did the same with the guy that did the thing in late June. I want to say his 07 model was used as well. Also, can we just take it that shit was 18 fucking years ago?
Mm-hmm.
How? How the fuck was 2007 that long ago, bro?
Time marches on.
It's so strange. I work with so many people that were not alive when that shit happened.
Yeah.
And I'm
That's
just
crazy.
like, damn, bro. Yeah.
Sometimes I
I'm
watch
just like,
Stardom and there's like wrestlers born in like 2006 or something. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
I had a similar moment when I want to say like Julia Hart first popped up in AEW and I found out she was born like after 9/11. And I was like, God, we've really hit that point where like you didn't have to be alive for 9/11 and you're like actually old enough to be on like pro wrestling TV. Now that's fucking wild. Why
Yeah.
9/11 was like such a stopping point for me for years, but it was like, God, we really do have like post 9/11 kids on weekly television. That's
Crazy.
nutty. Like there are people on TV now that were like infants when SmackDown Here Comes the Pain came out.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so old.
As we are.
33 shouldn't feel this old. SK, have you ever played Here Comes the Pain? I know you said you played a lot of SmackDown too, but like Here Comes the Pain's another one that a lot of people seem to love, myself included.
I haven't actually played it, if I'm going to be honest. I mean, yeah, lots of people say, oh, it's the next best wrestling game after No Mercy, or it could be the best wrestling game. But I haven't actually played it myself. It
I
was a bit
feel
over the
like,
top from what I saw.
yeah, that's part of the charm of that particular game. I feel like that game for the longest time was like the dividing line between generations when you would ask people like what, like kind of how like WrestleFest was the one and then it was No Mercy. I feel like Here Comes the Pain, if you were a few years younger than I currently am, that was the game. Because then like SmackDown 06 became the game, and I think after that, I want to say the next like fucking big one after that is like 2K14. It's very weird how conventional wisdom decides some of these all-time great games because I look at 2K14 and I'm like, yeah, it's a good game. I don't think it's anywhere close to the best wrestling game ever. You know, like SmackDown 06 certainly not either. That game is doo doo.
I saw
But highest rated
a
wrestling game ever on IGN, 9.2.
I saw a post recently that someone was like, "What's the best wrestling game of all time?" Whatever, and someone said, "This is the best game ever," and it was like SmackDown vs. Raw 2007. It's just like, how is this possible?
Great soundtrack, I'll say that.
Yeah, but no.
Oh, you want to know why they probably said that? It's the first wrestling game, the first WWE game to feature the Great Khali
Oh yeah, that's huge.
and the
Yeah.
Boogeyman.
Oh, I mean, my God.
Don't
'Cause the last
fucking
game-
downplay the Boogeyman, bro.
Because the last game he was in before that was King of Colosseum Red, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That or Fire Pro Z. It's one of those two. Yeah.
Yeah. That's strange to think about, but yeah.
I don't think I've ever actually used him in King of Colosseum Red. I don't think I've ever fought him either.
I think I used
Oh no!
Giant Silver.
Now that I think about it, I think one time I got really bored and I tried to beat him with Yuji Nagata and I got critical by something. I want to say it might not have been Nagata. It might have been Tenzan.
It's
One
funny
of the top New Japan guys.
that's the only game that Silva's in, and he wasn't in like Attitude, but they had Kurgan in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and Kurgan's a fucking unlockable too.
Yeah.
I'll say this though, that Kurgan, the one that came with the Don Callis figure, that thing was like pushed super hard in my figure fed. He killed everybody except Goldberg.
It was a pretty cool figure at the time.
Because he had like the claw hand, and I was like, the regular claw is not cool enough. He needs to do like a claw choke slam.
Yeah.
And I remember I did an angle where he did that like over the top rope to the floor to somebody. And because I was like 8, I just kind of like flung the figure, and it was like 7 feet from the ring. And I think might have been, was it Brian? He might have done to Brian Christopher. And I basically treated it like Kurgan killed him. Oh God, Kurgan ruled. Like
Yeah,
I can't tell you a good match or anything that he had, but fucking look at him. That guy's a pro wrestler.
Yeah, he was in Wing as well.
See, we needed to get him into like 1997 Big Japan.
I mean, my ultimate dream is Ahmed in like 98 All Japan.
Fucking imagine.
It would have been amazing.
Especially 98, because he's so physically fucked up by that point, too.
Yeah.
SK, what are your thoughts on Ahmed Johnson as a wrestler?
I mean, I saw a bit of his work in WWF. It was okay. I mean, he had that feud with the Nation of Domination, and yeah, because I didn't have access to WWF that much during 98, 99, so I know he kind of went under the radar, and then he showed up in WCW, right? It was Big T.
Yeah.
God, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And then his physique was just completely different to what I remember in WWF. So I think he put on quite a bit of weight as well.
Yeah, he never put it off either, from what I've seen.
Oh yeah, he got a lot bigger. I never thought he was like fat in WCW. He was just like
roid bloat, honestly, is what it kind of looked like.
I mean, he's like the Juggernaut, basically.
But then there were all the one of the things with guys from that era, especially the ones that were really on the stuff heavily, is you see them later in life, if they don't adjust, because you have to diet and everything way differently when you're active, like physically active, and you're on the shit. Some of those guys don't change the diet, and that's why you see them, and they look like they ate the old them. And Ahmed was one of those guys for like years. Yeah. You would see like a picture of him, and it's like, Jesus Christ, he's huge.
Well, we'll always have the pictures of him
doing better now.
Yeah, we'll always have the pictures of him in the jean short, so that's what we can remember him by.
How excited would you be if he recreated that
now? I mean, for nostalgia's sake,
friends with him on Facebook. I'm sure for a few bucks he'd do it.
I just want the old poster in my room. I'm telling you, I think that would be great.
I don't think I want to explain to him why we want him to recreate it, but I'm sure for a couple of bucks.
Oh yeah, he'd be down for it. And do it slowly.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about, SK?
No, I haven't got anything else. I mean, if there's any other questions you guys got.
I think I've asked everything I wanted to. Lagerbusa?
Nothing specific. I mean, is there anything like What are you working on right now? Is there anything? I know you talked about the break in the VPW2, but that's something that would take quite a while. Is there anything else that you're working on currently?
So at the moment, we're just working on a Blender model script. So
Right.
obviously, this is going to be a big game changer when it comes to like Aki modding and hacking. So the ability to create custom models. I've added a feature where you can actually export textures into the native format, so you can just like import them straight into the games with VPW Studio as well.
Oh,
So I'm
cool.
kind of hoping that it's going to get a lot more people creating custom models as well. So all the export functionality is pretty much on point now. So yeah, just wanted to get
So
that out of the way before I started working on any major project.
when you talk about creating custom models, is it possible to do higher poly count models than what are in the games normally? Like, for example, could you maybe do like a dumbed down version of like an All Star Pro Wrestling model or a Wrestle Kingdom model?
So I believe there are limits in terms of how many vertexes you can have. I believe it's a maximum of 32. Because I know Randy's been trying out the plugin, and then he's fed back to me now. If there's any model that's got more than 32 vertexes, then it can cause a bit of issues in the game in terms of like the layering. So it's something that I just got to experiment with and then see what the actual maximum number of vertices are. Well, that won't cause the game to actually act up.
Interesting, because I was thinking along the lines of like changing the general shape of the like default bodies. I don't have a
Yeah,
good way to describe what I'm thinking of, but like to make them a little bit more like a little not so much less blocky, but like a little bit more in line with like what you would see in like a Def Jam Vendetta or like a WrestleMania 19. I know you obviously can't do like that level of like polygonal detail, but like the general idea of like the way those bodies look, I guess, is what I'm asking.
I mean, you could be able to just like remodel all the body models so it's less blocky as well. I mean, if there's less than 32 vertexes, then you can probably add a few more here and there to try to make it a better shape. So I don't see why it wouldn't be possible.
That's interesting because I love the Aki games, but like some of the like blockiness of like the torsos specifically, and I understand like some of that's just the hardware limitations as it were of the time. But I look at that and I'm like, couldn't we just round off the shoulders a little bit? Can we just like round off the head a little bit more here? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. I'm sure
that's
there'll be a
interesting.
way. I mean,
I
yeah, I'm
mean,
sure there's
I've
definitely
learned
a way of doing
through
that.
like Randy's stuff. Like, there's always a way. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine.
There's something that I was thinking about earlier. It's like I wonder if it'll get to a point where someone tries to use the engine to basically mod it as to where it's no longer a wrestling game. Like if someone could take it and like make like a beat 'em up or something like that. Like, would we ever get to that point where something like that is possible?
I think that would require like the decomp the frame's working on.
Yeah.
SK's free to tell me I'm wrong on that. Obviously,
Yeah, I think before any like major conversions, so like changing from a wrestling game to a fighting game, then yeah, decomp will be ideal for that.
That'd be so interesting where if like in some way the Aki engine becomes like its own, like a something outside of wrestling games where you can do like a whole bunch of different things with it. Considering it's such an old engine that's no longer supported by the developers, it's all community based. That'd be just insane. That's
I still
possible.
wish we could have seen like an actual like mixed martial arts game using what they build out with Def Jam Fight for New York, especially
Yeah.
like the PSP version with like that dedicated ground and pound system. That's like maybe even more so than Mayhem 2. The biggest what if for me is what if like EA Sports actually signed the UFC in the mid 2000s and threw a boatload of money at Aki to make like EA UFC, but it comes out on like as like a late PS2 game or an early like PS3 generation game. That's because I like EA MMA a lot. That game's fantastic.
Yeah,
But
me too.
I look at what Aki was doing with Fight for New York, and I try to imagine that same game with like Chuck Liddell and George St. Pierre and Matt Hughes and God forgive me for saying this, Tim Sylvia, one of the most boring fighters you'll ever see in your fucking life. And I always think about like how cool it would have been to have had like an actual official Aki MMA game. And then you go down the rabbit hole of like, I wish they could have made a Pride game, which that would have been cool, but no way that would have ever happened because of all the licensing deals that Pride had done, and also the Japanese mob and all the other things. But like, I always think about like, if they could have done that UFC game, what would it have been like? And also, being a mid 2000s EA Sports game is a lot more preferable to an early 2010s EA Sports game. Philosophy kind of changed when graphics got better, sadly. What are your thoughts on the way that like shoot fighting works in Virtual Pro 2? Now that we're talking about like real fighting in these games.
Well, I've never really compared it to like the other games there, but I feel like Virtual Pro does it quite well in terms of like you got you got the fight style there pretty much in place. It could probably do with a lot more moves, I would say, and being able to choose what you can do once you get the opponent on the ground in terms of the attacks. I think there can be some more options on there as well. I know in the movesets they have removed a few of the features, but you can, like, if you hack them back into the game, then you can see that there was probably intention to add some more moves to some of those categories as well. So if we're able to add some more moves to those categories, then it could make the MMA feature in Virtual Pro 2 a lot better.
I was going to ask, like, is there potential to expand like the ground grappling aspect? Because I love Virtual Pro 2 unconditionally, but I've always kind of hated, and this is kind of one of my issues with like the early MMA games. A lot of times it will be a takedown to mount. Like, yeah, with the UFC game and the Pride game, you can get into guard and kind of work it from there. But like, there's like way too little of the actual ground grappling, especially for Virtual Pro 2, which was an era where MMA, especially Pride, was a lot heavier on grappling than striking, because that was the era of like Sakuraba. They were bringing the Gracies in a bunch. Carlos Newton was over there for a little bit early on. And like devastating striking was kind of the exception, not so much the rule. So like, would it be possible to add like positions on the ground, or at least like defensive options if you're the one in mount? Because it seems like you only have the ability to throw the punch upward. There's not so much like a scoot out to guard and stand back up kind of thing.
I think there's definitely an opportunity to increase the number of like ground grapples and attacks as well. So yeah, from what I've seen, some of them only got like one move assigned, which is, I think, is a rear naked choke, and then you got this leg lock. You can definitely expand on that as well. So that was one of the things I was looking to expand upon on this Broken Limits project as well.
I'm looking forward to that project. I don't know if I said that earlier, but like the idea of trying to put everything into one game, and especially what I consider to be the best of the Aki games, because it is gameplay wise, it's the most aesthetically complete, because it has basically everything that No Mercy has, but it also has the combo system and the shoot fighting on top of it.
Yeah.
And I wish more people tried to figure out ways to do stuff with Virtual Pro 2, because there's literally not a thing that you could want to do with one of these games that Virtual Pro 2 doesn't have the capacity to do. Like, if you wanted to make if you wanted to mash up Mania 2000 and Revenge, not only are like most of the moves and shit already there, but like the combo system's still there, so you can make the guys like Goldberg and Glacier and Saturn play more accurately to how they did in Revenge. And then the WWF guys translate perfectly too, because it's VPW2.
Yep. I mean, that's the whole aim of this project as well. Like, combine everyone into one roster as well.
How are you going to handle the guys for that are Virtual Pro 64 exclusive in terms of like the texturing and like the move sets?
For the ones that are in Virtual Pro 64.
Yeah, the ones that don't carry over, like Ric Flair, for example.
Yeah. So it's going to be like similar process to what Freem did. Actually, just trying to replicate their look so it fits the style of Virtual Pro Wrestling to adapt their move sets as well. So like I know with the Revenge guys, when it comes to certain grapples, they only have like one move, and the taunts as well. So it's just trying to find suitable alternatives for those slots as well.
Do you think it's possible that we'll ever see an early enough build of Revenge where either one of or both of Ric Flair and Ultimate Warrior are still like an early stage version of like how you can kind of get Wrath?
I know Ultimate Warrior was definitely not in Revenge. I mean, because I think he had joined WCW on the cutoff date. Or it might have been he joined.
I think he signs in June and he shows up in August. Yeah. Yeah, it's like 2 months before the game comes out. I just remember the rumor that there was like that early on he was slotted for the roster because of how early he signed, because he signs in like June.
Yeah, but I don't think it was enough time like
yeah, probably not. Flair's the weird omission to me though, because I think by the time the game comes out, he's back on TV. Like I get there was the whole legal issue, but like it's so weird to think like the best WCW game doesn't involve Ric Flair, like at all.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one with Flair.
We got Roddy Piper with the Starrcade 96 hop though, so
yeah.
And Piper's better, so I think that's all I've got for you. I certainly don't want to take up any more of your afternoon than we already have.
No, that's fine.
You want to plug your socials?
Yep. So you can follow me on X or Twitter, as I still like to call it. You can follow me on Aki Club 64, and on Blue Sky, which I'm not as active on. It's the same thing, I believe. Aki Club 64.
Okay. Thank you for coming on. I've enjoyed this interview. I think I can speak to my co-host with that.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. So obviously, once again, thanks to SK for coming on. We're going to just talk the general news and bullshit from this week. We had a State of Play, Summer Games Fest. I'm sure if we think about it hard enough, there's going to be some wrestling figure news to discuss. I think there is some wrestling figure news to discuss now that I say that. And until then, take care and don't be an asshole. And I'm going to go do something to eat.